do like an old school like carnival thing where we like cut the smiley face out of the emoji and you put people's. That was absurd. That was absurd. It sounded like you had a duck and a leg lock, dude.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Tether Radio Podcast, the only podcast keeping you from spiraling out into the infinite abyss. My name is Daniel, and I'm coming at you from Knoxville, Tennessee, and I'm joined, as always, by my brother and co-host, Joseph.
Atlanta, Georgia, represent.
Whoop, whoop.
Dude, so we were laughing a little bit before this because we were talking about extreme vapors, which it's actually diminished kind of in the past couple of years because when vaping, I don't want to say when vaping first came out because surely it's been around for a while, I think.
Yeah, I think I think it got more popular once they expanded the market kind of thing to be able to be sold at like, instead of just like head shops and vape shops and stuff like that, just like whatever, you know.
I thought you were going to say they expanded it past juggalos.
Once they started slinging other places other than ICP concerts. So.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. They were like,
do you remember that Workaholics? He's like, "Oh, excuse me, sir. I think you dropped. Oh, that's poop." It rolled out of that dude's pant leg.
No, so that's the thing is those are the highest indicators for whether or not you'll like vaping. Mm. Are you a juggalo or do you listen to Stained? You know? Yeah. And if you check any one of those boxes, I think you're good to go. Or do you drive a Ford Probe?
What the fuck's a Ford Probe?
Google it, bruh.
All right, I'm on it.
Yeah.
I think you were gonna bring something else up though.
Yeah. So I was gonna bring something up.
Jeez, Ford Probe.
You know that Ford Probe. It's like a sporty little. It's like a the sports car when you're like nah, you know. I mean that's like it ain't that dank. Let me put it that way. But yeah, so did you read this article out of San Francisco? And the way the article is framed is it says, "Man coughs up blood clot that is like, you know,
a perfect like bronchial."
Yeah, did you see that?
Yeah.
And then you like click on this picture, and it's like, this is a fucking chunk, man. Like it is a serious unit of
clot.
Of clot. And you're just like, and then I'm thinking like coughs up. Like when I think about cough, I'm like, like that's how I think about coughing.
Well, I think of like a small amount of phlegm, maybe. Dude,
thing. This motherfucker must have turned inside out.
Yeah.
All right. And then when you read the article, he died.
Oh no shit. So I mean, maybe that was actually part of a bronchial tube or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, can we get a second opinion? Are we sure this isn't just like, you know, this isn't just part of him? You know? But it's like it's pretty amazing, and they've got it like, you know, displayed on this surgical, you know, towel but it's they were like, after a hacking session, this popped out of, you know, Mr. Jones' mouth or whatever, and you're like looking at this thing, and it like, I don't know, man.
Oh, it's ridiculous, man. It's huge.
You think about all the things that it takes for your body to even work semi-well, you know? Yeah. And, like, I get out of bed in the morning and I'm like, man, fuck. Like, sometimes I'll try to get up really early and, you know, get after it. And I'm like, God, I'm just so tired. And then I'll think, like, there are so many other things that could just be totally sideways and fucked, you know? Yeah. So it's like the fact that, like, I have the normal human response after waking up, after a night's sleep. Like, I'll take it. You know?
Yeah. No, I completely agree, man. It's like, honestly, it always boggles my mind how many healthy babies are born all the time. Because it's like there are so many illnesses, diseases, ailments, congenital, birth defects and stuff that it's like, but yet we have, tens of thousands of births, that are totally healthy. So
yeah, man, a bobby is amazing.
It really is amazing.
A bobby is a very amazing invention. Let's see. There was one other thing that I wanted to mention, but I'm drawing a blank, so it must not be important. How was your week? Pretty good?
Yeah, man, it was pretty good. I ended up having to work Friday night and closed then, which was fine. Made some decent money. So I was trying to think of if anything else. Well, it's snowing. It actually snowed this morning. Did you guys get any snow in Atlanta?
No. Okay. No, it was just super cold, super wet.
Yeah. It snowed for a little bit, and Megan took Finn out earlier, and it was actually really funny because he doesn't have any like snow pants or like suits or anything, with the exception of one that Megan's birth family sent from Korea. And so it just looks so Asian. It's hilarious. It's got like a pointy head on the hood is really pointy. So he looks like a cone head. He looks like a magical little, like, I don't even know what, snow bunny.
At least you won't lose him out there, man.
Yeah.
That's what matters. Yeah. That's what matters. So let me take actually, you know what? I can bring this up later in the episode.
Well, hey, I do have one quick story to tell, because I don't think I told you this, but,
okay, lay it on me.
So, we thought that, a dog was pooping in our yard, right? It's not a dog. It was a raccoon.
You caught it.
No, the way that we know this is it fucking crawled up under my grill, got the grease drip tray, and tore the fuck out of it. It literally ate half of the fucking aluminum like tray.
Wait, dude, you got to get a picture of this thing.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, this like raccoon, and the reason I knew it was I know it was a raccoon is there were claw marks in the grease that was left.
Well, because, yeah. Wow. I was up there when I was hanging out with you guys or whatever. I actually found a picture of your raccoon, dude. And I'll send it to you right now. Right. But we gotta post this. This is really good. Sorry for laughing, guys. This without the visual. Radio is really hard when you're mixed media. But we went up to your guys'
Stuck chonker. Oh, that's fucking awesome.
I think that's it, dude. That's your record.
I think you're right.
But we were up there for Thanksgiving, and there were like massive shits in the side yard.
Yeah,
like it was clearly dog or child, you know. And apparently it was just a fucking.
Well, the best part is
just a greasy raccoon.
Yeah, the best part is so it like munched down on our grease drip tray thing. And then, like, 2 days later, I'm, like, driving home, and I don't know. Oh, God, it's stuck in a fucking, like...
In a grate.
That's funny. Anyway, sorry, I was referring to that. Joseph just sent me a photo of a really fat-ass raccoon that apparently tried to escape down a water drain thing, and it got stuck. And the name of the picture is Stuck Chonker.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, I was driving home, and, down on North Shore, there was a raccoon that was just obliterated. So I'm hoping that, that was the raccoon that was eating our grease, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, dude, speaking of driving, let's cruise into this stuff. So I pulled this article, and this dude, the name of the article was "Man Trying to Drive Like Ace Ventura with Head Out Window Slams Car into Tree." So yeah, this fool in Lincoln, Nebraska was taken into custody by the police after he smashed his car into a tree and a retaining wall while driving with his head out the side window or whatever. So I think he fled I believe he fled the scene of the accident. So they found him. And he was actually quoted as saying, let's see. Oh, his windshield wipers were inoperable, which forced him to drive with his head out of the window, like Ace Ventura, due to the rain or whatever. So he actually referenced Ace Ventura when he was explaining to the police why he was driving with his head out.
So what was his deal? What had he done?
So once they caught him or whatever and interviewed him and stuff, they also took his BAC and it was a .137. So I would say that he was mildly intoxicated at that point. So.
I like it though. I like how the first excuse that he reaches for is no. Well, I mean, you've seen Ace Ventura, haven't you?
Yeah, right.
That's definitely it's the direction to take it. And then
understand, right?
And then you're just like, God, you guys just don't have a sense of humor.
Yeah, exactly. But
yeah. So this next one, man, I thought was appropriate and kind of funny, but really interesting. And I'm just scanning to make sure we don't. I don't think we touch on the well, go ahead and read it. And let me pull something up. There was a social media site this week that made an announcement that's kind of
Tumblr.
It was Tumblr. Yeah. We don't cover that. I don't think elsewhere in the
no. But yeah.
Yeah. Break this off. This is interesting.
So Starbucks is planning to block porno on its free Wi-Fi in all of its U.S. stores come 2019. So if you're down for trying to pull on your pud while sipping a pumpkin spice latte, it ain't gonna happen at Starbucks.
You're in line and you're like, y'all still have pumpkin spice? Yeah, I'll take one of those. And what's the Wi-Fi password? And then you're like, this line's pretty long.
Is that coffee cake? I like to rub it on my nuts while I look at porn.
What's your bathroom code? I'll be right back.
Yes, stepsister on stepmom action.
It's like that's like the number one searched. Fucking what the fuck, right? Like, what is that? That's bizarre.
Yeah, dude. But yeah, so which I didn't realize, actually McDonald's, which I guess honestly, thinking about watching porn at either McDonald's or Starbucks just like absolutely cracks me up, because it's like, when you're in there, that is like the last fucking thing on my mind, I guess. You know? Yeah,
but we covered the McDonald's the touchscreens, and they had like fecal matter all over them. So like
it's got fucking jizz too.
Shit is popping off in McDonald's, dude.
But yeah, so McDonald's actually blocked it back in 2016. So I mean, they were actually ahead of the game, man.
So I mean, something like that is like whatever, you're offering public Wi-Fi, which you don't have to do anyway, I guess. Yeah. I mean, I guess for Starbucks, it's kind of part of their business model.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's inappropriate to block porn. I think that it's interesting that I don't know, that you have to to be honest, I think it's interesting that that's like an announcement. Like it seems like the default position.
Yeah, exactly.
Would be to block porn. But but I we were talking just briefly. I just want to slide this in here.
Yeah.
We were talking briefly about and we have been talking over the past couple of months about censorship on social, different social media sites, and I don't know that Starbucks is a good example. You're offering free Wi-Fi. It is a little weird to think that there are people like, you've seen, everybody's, seen the Reddits or whatever of like people that are casually watching porn on like a train.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not, it just looks like a 50-year-old accountant, who's just casually watching hardcore porn on his, Galaxy 5 or whatever. Like, it's fucking weird. But, but earlier this week, it was this week or last week, they being Tumblr, announced that they were going to start blocking, was it porn or
I believe it was referred to as like adult content.
Adult content.
So I don't know what they're going to define that as.
Adult content. And that is really, really interesting to me.
Yeah. Which the meme that's been going around on Reddit is basically they had like
I tweeted about it.
Oh, did you?
Females presenting their nipples.
Wait,
did you
what?
see that?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Google that.
Females presenting nipples?
That's in the announcement. That's one of the things that they call it. They say, yeah, and we're going to block like females presenting nipples.
What?
Okay, granddad, like
that is so bizarre, dude.
Do you see it? Did you Google it?
Yeah.
And that's the way that they phrased it. It was like females presenting nipples.
Because it's like, from knowyourmeme.com, they say females presenting nipples is a phrase used in Tumblr's updated community guidelines, which ban adult content.
Yes.
That's so funny, dude.
Yeah, so
females presenting ankles.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the puritanical.
It's like the Amish. It's the Amish.
The Amish
puritanical,
social, yeah. The Amish social media. That's exactly right. That's on the Ohio Tumblr. That's
the Pennsylvanian.
The Pennsylvanian Tumblr. Barn raising A-OK. Ankle presentation not so much, brother.
That'll get you a
brother Eli,
lifelong ban. Brother Eli.
Brother Eli watching ankle presentations in the back of his of his carriage, dude.
In the back of his carriage.
So but you and I were talking about this briefly. And porn is low-hanging fruit for these guys to block.
Because it's you're not gonna get much pushback about it, because you've got enough people out there that it's like, whatever, that kind of seems like a decent idea, or people that just don't give a shit about it. So. Yeah,
and it's really interesting the way that we have sexuality framed in the United States, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, I really get the sense that in other countries, specifically places like Brazil, places like certain places in Europe, you could take your 12, 13-year-old kid who's kind of entering this stage where people are talking about that kind of shit and like whatever, starting to hook up or whatever the fuck they do. I haven't been that age for a long time, but and it's okay to like talk to them about condoms and talk to them about STDs and things like that, whatever. And like and I would imagine that just sexual topics, just being more open to discuss sexual topics or whatever is and I've heard from friends that are from some of these places that's kind of the norm. And in the US it's just interesting because I don't know what percentage, but it's got to be 80 or 90. I mean, it's got to be an absurdly high percentage of men watch porn. It has to be. Yeah. And I say this because porn sites are typically the most highly trafficked sites.
Well, dude, it's like
sites on the internet.
Pornhub is like fucking. It's like table talk kind of thing. On the not really table talk, but like it's so mainstream.
Yeah, but I guess it's so mainstream, but it's like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like nobody's gonna tell you like, oh yeah, the other day I was like watching this gangbang. Like it's just not. Or like, have you guys seen Blacked.com? Have you guys checked this out? Like anybody here into Casting Couch? Like nobody's gonna nobody's gonna bring
I'm
this.
a Brazzers man myself.
Right. Oh man, when they got rid of Bang Bus, that was a tough day for me.
Bang Bus.
Like, you know, like yeah. So anyway, the way the video starts off is she's just a student and she only needs a ride, you know, but she doesn't have any money.
Yeah.
So
She's
like,
looking for extra credit.
and you guys remember that old saying from the 70s? How'd it go? Ass, grass, or cash ain't shit free, or whatever.
Nobody rides for free.
Nobody rides for free. So, but the reason I say this is because I don't feel, it doesn't bother me that much that Tumblr is taking down adult content.
Mm-hmm.
But we talk about this a lot on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't like the way the optics and the way that feels.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if people want to watch porn,
mm-hmm.
I don't give a shit. I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that watching massive amounts of porn, probably just exposing your brain to those dopamine dumps like that on a regular basis is probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
You know, I think for like young kids to think that like BDSM is like what the fuck people traditionally do.
Yeah.
Which by the way,
that defines sexuality.
By the way, a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day is I say that, but clearly like that kind of shit is extremely popular. Otherwise you wouldn't see it in every sex shop, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You know, somebody's buying these fucking GIMP masks, and like, and here's the
somebody.
thing.
Hey, somebody's cornhole is searching for a ponytail butt plug.
Somebody's looking for a pony. That's right. Somebody's looking for a pony plug, and statistically, if you ask like 10 of your friends, like, "Have you ever worn a pony plug?" And they're like, "Ah, fuck you." Like somebody's lying. You know? So, you know,
he
and
knows.
He's sitting there. They're like, "Ah, fuck you," and then they tip their beer up. Their eyes kind of widen, and they're just like, "Dude, did I lock that GIMP mask up?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I fucking hope that I, buried the key
in my car
in the Folgers can in the backyard. You know?
Yeah.
But we'll truck on here.
Yeah.
But
but like you said, I mean, I personally would much rather somebody be able to watch porn in Starbucks or look at porn on Tumblr. I would rather that than this incremental censorship.
And
it kind of seems like is happening.
Yeah,
so.
and it doesn't. It's like the narrative just doesn't fucking square, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are not a tinfoil hat show. That's not what we do.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, you just start kind of connecting some of these data points, and it causes pause.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just like you think about it more than once.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
mm-hmm.
and I guess so. My point, and it was kind of a rambling little monologue there, but my point is that you're not going to get a lot of pushback, right? Everybody uses porn.
Mm-hmm.
Most people uses porn. Everybody watches porn. Most people watch porn. I think you'd be. There are very, very few people that haven't seen porn, don't watch it occasionally, whatever.
Yeah.
And then now you've got you had some social platforms that were banning whatever extreme viewpoints like Alex Jones and folks like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then and so to come out and start banning types of content.
Well, and the other thing is
it just gives me the fucking heebie-jeebies, man. I just don't. I don't.
Well,
like,
and it's up to the discretion of the
sounds.
people running the fucking website. Because it's like, okay, what is adult content? That's not defined. Period.
And how about females presenting nipples apparently, but but how about just letting how about letting this is what I don't like. Let the people decide that are using this shit.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't want to look at porn on Tumblr or females presenting nipples or whatever the fuck, then don't look at it on Tumblr.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me seems very linear and very easy to understand. But like kind of pivoting towards this concept of like nanny brands.
Yeah.
that are like, well, this isn't good for you. It's like, okay, fuck you.
Why don't you let me decide what's good for me?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And it's like, I know that it's much more complicated than that because, for example, something like cigarettes, it's like, you want to smoke cigarettes? Great. If you have the money to pay for the health care because your health is going to get fucked, and that's not the way that it works, right? Yeah. That typically you have, if you look at the vast majority of people that are, kind of squarely in situated as a smoker, they fit a certain demo. They probably are not going to have the money to pay for their health complications, and then that's going to fall in the public's lap. That is like largely true. I think largely true. It's not all true. Yeah. It's largely true, but I think that this is just a situation. So that's what I'm saying. There are layers. It's more complicated, but at a base level, fuck yeah, I think people should be able to smoke as much as they want. Fuck yeah, they should be able to, like, if somebody wants to be, conduct their life in a way that takes them kind of out of the game, out of being, competitive with fellow men, I guess, to the end goal of being able to provide, like, whatever, to be able to like live their best life, then that's their business, I guess. But.
So wouldn't it be fucking weird if moving forward, like like you said, if people, or okay, you said something about basically having to prove that you had insurance, about cigarettes. Wouldn't it be super fucking crazy if, like, to buy cigarettes you had to show that you were 18 and that you were insured?
Yeah, and I don't think that's super crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that we're moving towards, everything being a data-driven decision.
Yeah.
Everything being, all decisions kind of being data-driven decisions, and I don't think that that's a really wild thing to think about. But anyway. Look, I don't like the idea of a nanny state at all. I don't like the idea of, and that's from the public sector. I really, really, really don't like the idea of private companies
being able to censor, basically, how something's used. Kind of thing,
sure. But with the same breath, it just seems to go against the grain of, like, what the purpose of these social platforms are. And honestly, this is a different conversation for a different day, because we're quickly going towards, getting into the conversation of whether or not these are utilities, right?
Yeah. That's currently being debated, right? Because everybody's, that's kind of one of the big things about, like, net neutrality, right? Is the fact that it's like, okay, should the internet be treated like fucking, like, like phone lines, and that, like, what?
Yeah, like water and power and things.
Yeah, or electricity and stuff. So
things that are necessary, and I would argue that's like social media shouldn't be.
Yeah,
the internet generally should be. I just don't think that in our conversation about social media, there aren't enough flavors of social media to really be able to support, the connectivity that you want or that you need without playing, in very few places, and what I mean is, like, social media sites that are at scale, Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp or whatever, which is owned by Facebook, Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, so. And my point is that there just aren't enough flavors for people if they want to, look at females presenting nipples or whatever. Like, I don't like the idea that these at scale platforms can limit that. That being said, if they're private companies and that's what they want to do, and their shareholders don't have a problem with it, then fuck it. And if people decide to, dump platform and do something else, then awesome. I mean, that's the definition of a free market system. It's just shitty that we have to that this is kind of the way that it's headed, with I don't know, there is no more, like, moral absolutism is, like, not real, right? Like, everything's relative, and I think providing connectivity to people, generally good, can providing platforms that expedite idea share and people connecting and, and kind of the evolution of the group brain. Awesome. Let's do it. Great. But then when you start putting up, these blockers and just saying, well, this thing is not going to happen here. Like, it's just.
When you start blocking like subjective material, or I guess blocking material on a subjective basis kind of thing.
Yeah, man.
Then it's kind of like, because, obviously my idea of adult content would probably vary from 9 other people that were polled, their idea of adult content. I'm sure there would be certain things that would overlap, but like, depending on who you talk to, adult content is going to be, encompass a lot of different shit.
Well, that's exactly right. There is a painting, and we'll wrap with this and move on. The next article is actually has to do with nudity as well. But excuse me, there's a painting, and I'm gonna give me 2 seconds. I hate it when we do this on the show, but just give me 2 seconds because I'd like to quote this really quickly.
Yeah. Well, no, and speaking of while you're looking that up, there was something I remember reading an article about having, God, that it was like some museum or something along those lines. They were showing or on their like website or something like that. They were advertising some kind of exhibit, and some of the paintings had nudity and they were censored. Kind of thing.
Yeah. So there is an artist named Gustave Courbet, right? Painted this painting in 1866. It's called, and I'm going to butcher it because it's French, but it's called La Origine du Monde, right? The origin of the world. And it's this woman with her legs spread, laying back, right? It's not graphic. Fuck. It's just a woman laying back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everything is is fully visible and very detailed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
1866 this was painted. And there was a conversation about this being displayed at an art gallery earlier this year. There was a conversation. There was another painting from an American painter that sexualized this subject that appeared to be a teenager or preteen, right? And I'm drawing a blank on what the title of that one is. If you want to try to key it in and see if you can pull it up. But basically, it was an American painter that had painted a teenager that was like pulling up her socks or something, and you could like see up her skirt. And she had she had underwear on or whatever, but it was just a sexualized image, right? And there was this uproar about, should this painting be able to be presented and whatever. And it's like that. I don't have an opinion on it one way or another. I guess if you are a gallery and you don't want to present it, fine, right? Like if you are a patron and you don't want to look at this type of art, fine, right? But you can't start drawing lines, in my mind. You can and you do. People do all the time. But I think drawing lines and just saying like, saying that this is okay and that is not is just it's not good, and it's kind of a path fraught with some real dangerous pitfalls and landmines.
Yeah.
And so is that to say that like Brazzers is the same as, this painting from 1866? I mean, I guess technically no, but you know what, man? If like there is a porn director who like takes their craft seriously and is like, the king of money shots or the queen of money shots, there are a lot of female directors these days as well, then like fuck it. I mean that it is what it is, and like you're not. I just think it's really silly, really silly to start just blocking this content and getting people used to the idea that someone else can tell them what the fuck they can look at. That's my biggest problem with it.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on. Okay, so this next article, it's from Vice.
This was super, super interesting, dude. I'm glad you pulled this one.
Yeah, and it's the article title is "Millennials in China are using nudes to secure loans." And when I'm saying nudes, I'm saying pictures of themselves naked, derobed, right? And so the plug here is moneylenders offering services like Afterpay are demanding that customers send naked selfies as collateral, right? And they've got a couple of images up, and there are these two Chinese women that have ID cards, right? And this is a common thing if you are dealing in if somebody needs like a picture of you to verify that it's actually you signing up for a service. This is like really popular in the Bitcoin community and with these crypto exchanges, where you'd have to like write the date on a piece of paper, and you'd have to take a photo with you with the date in hand to make sure that it was actually you, and you'd have to have like your ID in hand and all that. So it's like that's kind of how it feels, you know. But these are like micro loan groups, right? Yeah. And so the example that they use are like, people wanting to buy everything from, an iPhone to a jacuzzi, but you're too cash strapped to do it. You can engage one of these services, and apparently the transactions are happening enough such that they're known in China as naked loan services. Okay.
Yeah.
And so it says in 2016 a total of 10 gigabytes of nudes from 161 young women, all of whom were holding their photo IDs, were leaked online by microlenders. Most of the victims were between 19 and 23 and typically borrowed sums of money between $1,000 and $2,000. Okay.
So what? What? Like, I know that they're using the nudes to secure loans, but like, so what? Is that what happens basically?
The threat is that they will release them.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so,
and that's if they don't like literally if they miss payments or like.
Yeah. That's exactly right. So the threat is that they will release the photos. And they said other loan agencies other loan recipients were reportedly given the option to do sex work in order to pay off their loan, right?
Oh, wow.
So, what's interesting about this is it's like...
Is this mainstream?
Well, right. So check this out, right? They say so rampant is the problem of naked loan services in China that last year the country's financial regulators vowed to crack down on unlicensed microlenders. A multi-ministry task force said that amid the rapid development of cash loans, while they have played a role in meeting the normal credit needs of some groups, problems such as overlending, repeat borrowing, improper collections, abnormally high interest rates, and privacy violations have become prominent. So this is there are a couple of different directions that I want to take this article. Number one is that I would say the vast majority of these loans would be considered shadow banking. Now, are you familiar with this term?
No, I'm not.
So shadow banking is just banking type services that happen outside of the bounds of traditional channels and tracks, right? So like there is something like if you go in and you want to refinance your house, right? There's a process that you go through. There are papers that you're going to have to sign with Wells Fargo or Chase or whatever. They're going to go and probably do a KYC, know your customer check to make sure that you are you and that you live where you live, and they're not and that your credit actually belongs to you and whatever, right? But then you're going to go through a process where it is a regulated process. Well, shadow banking is people still getting loans. People, maybe even in some cases, I knew a guy in LA that did this, who actually got a mortgage from a private party, right?
Oh, wow.
And these are people that, you know, they can get you capital quickly, but if you fuck it up, like the stakes are high, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so what's interesting is shadow banking happens all around the world, but it happens at scale in a absolutely at a blinding pace and at a blinding, an astonishing scale in China and India. Those are really two big ones. And it makes sense, right? There's so many people that need services that probably couldn't qualify for traditional services, or maybe just don't have access for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
And these shadow bankers, which is a really kind way of putting it, I think, which is
it sounds like fucking loan sharks, basically.
In many ways it is.
You know.
But what's interesting, and this is one of the directions I want to take this article, is that shadow banking in China, that's one of the reasons that it has been speculated that we really have no idea what's going on in China, right? Because like even if you trust the Chinese government to report accurately what's happening in the traditional channels, right? Shadow banking is happening at such scale and is responsible for so much of the debt that cycles through the Chinese economy.
Yeah.
Or debt and credit cycles, I guess, or credit cycles, I think would be actually the way to say it. But the debt that is issued and the creditors that collect that debt, it's really hard to tell what's actually driving the Chinese economy in some ways.
Yeah.
And so the other thing is shadow banking, because it's happening at such scale, if shit gets sideways and there are all these, shadow transactions, these fringe transactions that end up, the sum of which ends up being like a big fucking deal because people don't have the money, and it's not obvious that people don't have the money, and they're not going, credit worthiness doesn't fucking matter as long as you have a nude or whatever.
Yeah.
What they're saying, some articles that I have read have said that have speculated that China will just handle that problem in house, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which is problematic when you are one of the biggest countries and have theoretically one of the largest economies in the world, and many other players in the world are kind of pegging their decisions to decisions that you're making. And even if they're not pegging their decisions to the decisions that you're making, they're certainly reacting to the decisions that you're making, right? And so if it's unclear as to really what the state of the economy is, that can be really problematic when you try to understand the context of their economy in the world economy, within the world economy.
Well, when you're trying to project, I guess where to move business wise and like you said in regards to the economy, if you don't have all the information there, I could definitely see how that would be problematic. So.
Yeah, and so this is the shadow banking is a huge I'm sure it's a boon for the people that don't have access to some of the more traditional services.
Yeah.
But it's becoming problematic in its impact globally, which I think is just incredibly fascinating.
Yeah,
And so that was one of the comments I wanted to make. And then the other one is that I think that while this is shocking because this shit would not fly in the United States, I should say this happens. For sure this happens in the United States.
Oh, yeah. But
it just,
on such a smaller scale that,
Yeah, it just doesn't seem as rampant, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that, this is where, for me, like I am a free market guy through and through, right? But this is, for me, where I think some gentle regulation is not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
I think preventing people from ruining their fucking lives over $1,000 is probably a good thing. Now, granted, $1,000 in China means something very different, but even $10,000, a 19-year-old person who like feels like they need $10,000, well, theoretically, man, I mean, I've said this like 10 times in the show so far, and this is yet another conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But that's why some of these checks and balances are in place in terms of denying you for a loan that you shouldn't fucking have, because you do not have the ability to pay it back, right?
Basically forcing financial responsibility on people. So.
Yeah. Now, I mean, of course, when I say it's another conversation for another day, the system's fucking rigged 100%. I mean, 2008 really taught us that. But so anyway, this like degradation of humanity or whatever for a buck is I mean, we're already kind of seeing it in some ways. Look at Uber. Look at people that charge birds or whatever the fuck. I mean, it's your time is really not valued. And like when someone's driving Uber, the reality of it is they're probably just not good at understanding what cash flow means. And how that can be kind of a financial head fake, So because if you sat down and you calculated wear and tear on the vehicle and whatever, like your time is really not being valued very much, And so it's just another way that tech is kind of has led to this kind of general, degrading of the most important thing that we have, which is our kind of time and reputation, I guess, But anyway, so that's that. But I just thought it was an incredibly interesting article because,
well, it'll be interesting to see if it becomes, obviously it is becoming a bigger and bigger problem. At what point is it going to be problematic to the point of where the Chinese government, actually starts looking at it and stuff? I mean, that they're seeing it, but like, I guess looking to do something about it. So
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we're talking about media, we're talking about censorship, we're talking about hacks. Give us a lead in here on the Wikipedia.
The Wikipedia. Yeah, man. Yeah. So I pulled this one from Wikipedia, and everybody's always seen, or everybody kind of knows how Wikipedia works. And if you don't, basically it's edited by, or it can be edited by the public, but they also have administrators that kind of oversee the edits and stuff and basically have to review them. And I don't think that they review it to the point of, basically, do all the fact checking and stuff. But if something jumps out that it's like, for instance, this, then it's going to be caught. But, so basically what happened was with, I pulled this from The Verge. It's called, Wikipedia engages the nuclear option after Trump penis hack. So, what someone did
when was this? What was the actual?
So this was, okay, so I pulled the article from December 4th, and let's see, I should look this up, but, so it was actually, it looks like November 22nd, they had, The Verge had another article about this penis hack thing, and basically what the hack was is, if you used your smart device or smart speaker or whatever and used like an AI assistant or whatever, like for instance Siri, and you asked how old Donald Trump was, it would bring up a photo of a dick and then give you the information.
Okay. All right.
So someone had gone in and they said that they either thought that they were gaming like the algorithm or however these assistants work in regards to pulling information. They were either gaming that or the actual Wikipedia article had been edited. Well, so obviously, yeah, that's all funny and all that, but the problem is is if someone wanted to be more, I guess, vile about it and try to spread misinformation. Now, in the world that we live in, with fake news being like the ultimate buzzwords, I guess, it really is problematic, because you think about how often people, I know I on a daily basis probably use Wikipedia to just get some kind of little blurb about something that I have no fucking clue about.
Right.
I'll use it daily, you know, and I mean, do I know, I know that it's, am I going to use Wikipedia as a source for a, fucking academic paper? No. But like day to day use, man, I mean, it's, you know, 9 out of 10 times I'd say you're going to be getting some pretty accurate information from them. But, the main problem is, the Wikipedia decided to, I guess implement this feature. It was called Unblock Self, and admins had access to it, so that if somehow an admin had been blocked, then they could unblock themselves. So, which it makes sense and it doesn't make sense, because obviously, you know, why would they get blocked? Well, other admins can block you, and if another admin got hacked and then blocked all the other admins, then they could unblock themselves in order to actually deal with the perpetrator, kind of thing.
Right.
Well, by removing this feature, basically what they've done is if someone if an admin got hacked, they could use a bot to block all the other admins on the site and do whatever the fuck they wanted. And it wouldn't be able to be dealt with until a high enough, administrator, got access to it to unblock, you know, and deal with the breach or whatever. But I mean, you don't know how long that would take. And in that amount of time, you know, what kind of misinformation could be spread? So that's kind of their main shtick, or I guess the gist of this article was that it's just, they're really afraid that someone is going to have a, oh my God, what is the word when basically a more like malevolent, I guess, desire kind of to use to spread this misinformation and stuff. But it was, it just seems like, you know, it's one of these things that it's coming on, you know, in this time that, I mean, dude, misinformation is like basically being weaponized at this point.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, information asymmetry. Yeah. Right? Like it's, I mean, that's what makes the world go round, right? Like you knowing something, you know, I don't. Yeah. I mean, that's how it works, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
But I just think it's interesting. So I hopped over to Wikipedia here, and something that I think is really fascinating here is that the last update on these pages, it's not obviously time-stamped. Which I think is a really interesting idea, right? Because the suggestion might be, you know, to timestamp changes, right? Yeah. So that you could at least have some, and I'm quite certain. I think I looked it up one time. I think Wikipedia is so wiki the wiki setup. Right. And the way that Wikipedia works on the back end, it's like written, or under the hood, I should say, it's like written in a language called PHP, and they offer like the Wikimedia setup. It's open source, right? So anybody can take it, and you could create a wiki type setup for a Wikipedia type layout and setup for anything, right? Yeah. But I think that it's fascinating that these aren't time-stamped. You've got you've got footnotes that are referenced, and they do give you a heads up on Wikipedia for certain references where they'll say like this article has been flagged as, you know, not having enough references or whatever.
Yeah.
And it is a supposed to be kind of like a self-governing community.
Yeah.
But you know, understanding where information comes from is that's going to be a huge challenge that the internet's going to have to face. Already is facing.
Well, and I mean that was one of the biggest criticisms of the internet and like websites in general is the fact that it's like, you know, I'm sure that probably at this point, you know, Joseph's been going through basically a programming school kind of thing, programming program.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But, it's like vocational training for sure.
Yeah.
And
so you have the skills at this point to throw up a website, make it look completely legit, and, you know, have, you know, people basically spread misinformation kind of thing, because people don't realize how accessible the internet is, and how, I guess how easily someone could build a website, and just, you know, it's always fascinating to me, I guess, that it's like, oh, you know, people all the time on Reddit, you know, people are like, oh my God, where'd you see that? And they're like, oh, well, it was at, you know, ChristmasTimeIsHere.com. Well, how fucking reputable do you think ChristmasTimeIsHere.com?
Yeah. I mean, but this is the old joke that, oh, I saw it on the internet, it must be true. I mean, I think that, you know, if you think about traditional media, you know, if you were in the checkout line at the grocery store and you see, you know, during Elvis's last days, you know, someone witnessed aliens flying out of his ass or whatever. I mean, it's like, and you're like, oh, okay, well, this is like by the Star or by the National Enquirer or whatever. People, the bar is low for what these folks publish. An interesting side note on that is that I was having this conversation a couple of years ago with a friend that was really into journalism, and they said that what's interesting is that while the National Enquirer is not, you know, a great source to quote from, because they'll break any fucking story. Sometimes they'll actually break stories that first, right? They're like absolutely blockbuster stories. And you know, because they don't give a shit and they'll publish most anything, they actually break those stories first. But you know, when you're seeing these publications, we have the ability to, simply because we've had a probably more exposure to understanding fundamentally what the difference is between the New York Times and the National Enquirer. But so you can see that and you're like, okay, well, it's probably bullshit. But that's not the way the internet works. And I think that the internet generally is pretty confusing for most people. You know, if you ask Dad to spin up a website, you're like, I will give you $10 million to build a website. I think that he probably wouldn't win that bet. You know,
I would take that bet.
And so and the truth is, it's not that complicated. The truth is that there are, you know, whether it's Medium, whether it's WordPress, whether it's Gatsby is a new one where you can like pretty quickly spin up like templated React websites. React is just a front end that uses JavaScript, and it's like, but it's not that tough, right? Like you can connect it with a GitHub repo, and bam, you've got a website, right?
Well, they've made it so that it, you know, I guess the UI is like drag and drop kind of thing, and then it spits out the code for you kind of thing, right? That's
right. I mean, that's, you know, GatorHost does that, where you can just pull stuff over and kind of template it out, and it'll just build it for you. Something like Gatsby, you need a little bit more technical expertise. But I say technical expertise, I kind of put that in quotations, because The reality of it is, if you give a shit, you can get on YouTube, and if you're, drink a lot of coffee on a weekend and are dedicated to it, you could probably learn enough to do what you needed to do. Really, almost. You don't need to even necessarily understand fundamentally what's happening. If you can just park the pieces in the right places, right, and get a couple of logic gates right, you can get it done. So all of that is to say, in a very convoluted way, that because it's challenging to rank and rate the quality of information that's coming across, and that issue is being exacerbated because journalism generally has gotten into this fucking serious death spiral, where clickbait and clickbaity headlines are really what drive their business models. And so it's just led to this general degradation, in my mind, of kind of the quality of the content. And then, that again is exacerbated by the people that are consuming that content really having no idea where to start in terms of pegging it for quality. Like, what's the benchmark? And so I don't know. It's kind of interesting to think in your Wikipedia article, even if maybe not even necessarily mods, but just like contributors and mods, people in the community. If you ranked these people's contributions, right? So it's like you could see who changed it, even if it's an anonymized username, right? But you could see who changed this article and in what time frame they changed it. I think that'd be definitely a step in the right direction. I'm not suggesting that you should have to put your name up when you edit something, but it's like if whatever Hindu Kush, or excuse me, not Hindu Kush, but like Smooth Kush 420, edits something, to do with a politician during election season, and they've got 4 edits, and the other ones are like shitty. Then and this one looks legit. Then you should be able to look at that and be like, probably this is somebody trolling. Probably this is somebody that has, a motive other than really pushing out good information. But being able to kind of contextualize who's contributing and how they're contributing is something that's seriously important.
Well, and that was actually something else that they. It's funny that you would bring up like the time frame in which that someone was editing stuff, because that was one of the other pieces that was kind of part of the concern for this Wikipedia or potential future Wikipedia hacks, is because regular editors have a rate limit kind of thing that they can do, either do so many articles edit in a certain amount of time, or maybe they can only contribute X amount in a certain amount of time. But the problem is admins don't have that. So that's kind of that was one of the big things that they were concerned about, because somebody with a decent knowledge about that would be able to build like a bot or something that would allow them to change a shit ton of information really quickly. I mean, it wouldn't, the hack wouldn't even have to last that long for them to just completely fucking obliterate, articles. So that was
okay, so this is where it would be really interesting to understand exactly how Wikipedia works on the back end, right? Like, have you ever seen the Wayback Machine? You know what this is? It's like it's like an archive of the internet, right? So like if you wanted to go and see what the New York Times, what we were talking about that a little earlier, I'll just use it as an example, looked like in 2001. You can hop on this website called the Wayback Machine, and you can go and look at different instances of a website throughout time. You can kind of see how it changed. It's kind of an interesting little tool. And so I would imagine that when you're editing a Wikipedia page, that they're not just getting rid of the content's not
creating
being,
like an instance or whatever.
Yeah, there's got to be
some kind of way to restore articles. And
right.
shit.
Right.
Yeah.
I would think, and that's
I agree. I think that the main concern is if you have administrator privileges, that maybe there would be some way that to basically erase, the instance or something along those lines.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, that is, man, I mean, we, at a very basic level, perception is reality. That's just how human beings work. There's no, that's it. Hard stop. There's no other way. And, being able to lay breadcrumbs that allow you to kind of get back to a body of work prior to changes, so that you can kind of contextualize those changes. Because like the issue is, you change something and maybe it's like an incremental change, and then all of a sudden, years later, you're like way off course. Well, the answer is not to question the last change. The answer is to go back and question the assumptions to begin with, and kind of rebuild the way that this article is constructed, the way that you're thinking about this problem or whatever, right? And so it's just interesting, because it's like oftentimes that's oftentimes where people err in general, is like shit gets fucked up, and instead of saying whoa, like let's go back to like 3, 4, 10 steps ago when we started down this path to begin with. So the issue is not the last edit. The issue is not maybe the last 10 edits. It's like the edit that started to aggregate power into this one admin's hands, who then took it and kind of ran with the ball and fucked this article up or made it extremely misleading. And so I feel like one of the best ways to really kind of talk about this and think about it is just having communities, these online communities that are self-governing and that do allow at least some level of, what's the way to put it? I guess just distributed governance, right? So could it be that people are colluding in 15 different countries to make sure that the Donald Trump picture stays as a fucking dick? Sure, could be. But it's like it would be less of a reality maybe than,
just a more decentralized system kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's funny because that's been a huge area of interest at the confluence of blockchain and journalism, because blockchains are just distributed ledgers. That's it. They just record things that have happened and timestamp them. That's what happens, right? Whether that's a transaction of digital currency, whether we're timestamping like contracts that have been signed. I'm not talking about smart contracts. I'm just like literally saying somebody commits their signature to a piece of paper and you timestamp that and you say, okay, well, I know they signed on January 12th, 2016 or whatever, right? And so that's one of the things that's interesting about. We're very far away from this, but implementing this type of technology at scale is that you can start to understand proof of provenance and chain of custody. So like, where did something come from and who handled it to current? And that's an interesting to think about with issues like this, because ultimately with the internet, that is going to be the hardest problem to fix. You've got to figure out where data originates and who handles it. And that's important. So I don't know, you quickly get into the conversation about, anonymization and like being able to preserve, some level of like, like, what's the way to put it? Sovereign identity or whatever in that context, such that like if you want to, push good data out into the ecosystem, like you should be rewarded. No, you shouldn't necessarily have to give your, all your credentials. Not necessarily, right? I mean, this is like the whole idea of like journalists protecting sources, right? So it's like somebody deep inside this organization said this, and I vetted it as best I can, but this is what they said, and to a fairly high degree, or to a fairly high level of confidence, I think that this is what happened. So creating like a digital version of that is gonna. I mean, it's a problem that's hard as hell.
Yeah.
That's going to be really, really necessary as we continue to lean on these sources for everything from sound bites to fucking criminal charges. Let me mention this one last thing that I think you'll dig. Did you happen to see this conversation about the math problem that was solved on 4chan?
The math problem that was solved. Huh. No, I don't think so.
This is really interesting, man. So this was a math problem, right? That, let me see if I can just pull some quick information up on this. But basically, it's a math problem that has been really challenging for mathematicians to solve, right? And it was like this 25-year-old math problem that people have not been able to solve, and professional mathematicians have thought about it and couldn't do it, and whatever. And it's called the Harohi problem, right? Basically, I guess it comes from. Let me make sure that this is dated properly, because I want to make sure I didn't expect to bring this up today. But let's see. Basically, it says, it is a math.
It's the shortest string containing all permutations of a set of n elements.
A set of yes, exactly. Thank you. Yeah. And so here's what's interesting. This math problem remained unsolved for 25 years. Okay, an anonymous 4chan poster solves this. Totally anonymous. Okay, mathematicians pull it down. They check it out. It's legit. This anonymous 4chan poster is now being referenced in academic papers, right? And the only way they can reference this anon is by saying this 4chan anon, right?
Yeah.
So that is a really kind of it's a really powerful idea.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, this person hasn't come forward, right? And it's not. I mean, this isn't. There's. I don't think with this math problem, which apparently was based on anime. But it was based on it kind of came from out of the anime world. It says, let's see, an anonymous poster figured out. Let's see. There are 14 episodes in the first season of Harohi, a 2006 anime based on a series of Japanese light novels. The episodes, which featured time travel and are otherwise chronologically challenging for the viewer, originally aired in a non-linear order. When the series went to DVD, the episodes were rearranged, and it's become something of an obsession of fans to rewatch the series over and over, going through as many chronologies as possible. Right?
Yeah.
An anonymous poster figured out one possible way to solve the 4chan problem, satisfying the more mathematically inclined Harohi fans, but in the process they helped puzzle out an issue that mathematicians have been working on since 1993, which is exactly what you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
And so that is really amazing. That this could be posted. What are you laughing about?
No, that's just absolutely, it's crazy. I literally pulled up the same article as you from The Verge, and it was just kind of piecing through it. It's just, it's interesting how solutions sometimes present themselves, I guess. So.
Yeah. I mean, consider this. how many people on Earth? 6 billion, 7 billion?
Something like that.
People on Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a kid somewhere in some out-of-the-way place that has an answer for something that could save your life.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's why the promise of the internet is so intoxicating. Because that is fact. I mean, that is, Aaron Swartz was one of the guys that created Reddit, and was a huge fan, a huge proponent of the open internet. I mean, this guy, I don't know if you haven't seen this, haven't seen the documentary, The Internet's Own Boy, you should check it out. But it talks a lot about, just kind of free information on the internet or whatever. And the power of that, but none of that matters if you don't know the legitimacy of the information that's being perpetuated.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, so cruising on to the next article here.
Tell us what developments Big Brother has for us.
Yeah, man. Well, apparently Uncle Sam is Sam Walton in this case.
Yeah.
So this article is from CNET. And it is about Walmart gaining a patent for eavesdropping technology in store. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, title of the article: Walmart gains patent to eavesdrop on shoppers and employees in the store. Now, we can imagine the goal here is probably not to catch the filching of Kit Kat bars by Walmart associates. It's probably to understand what people are chatting about or how they're thinking about a purchasing decision, and to get in and affect that decision in some way. But I don't know. I mean, I don't even know. I wanted to briefly chat about it, but I don't even know that that's news. You know, I mean. I turned on my computer the other day and I was like poking around, in my preferences and just, generally around just the configuration of my computer. And sure enough, man, the fucking microphone's on, right?
Yeah.
And that's just the default of all gear. Most technology has the ability to record what's being said in the room, and that's what's happening.
Yeah.
So, it's not something that I think you can really fight against at this point. If you want to be in public areas, like you are being filmed, you are being observed, your interactions that you think are private are not. Yeah. And, marketers are rising to take advantage of that. They have been for years, but, a company like Walmart, imagine the numbers here, right? Like, let's hack this out just real quick.
Yeah.
Hang on just a second. How many people visit Walmart annually? This is going to be a crazy number, right?
Yeah. Well, considering there's 11,277 stores worldwide.
So there are approximately 324 million people in the United States, right? Around 140 million customers visit Walmart in person or online every week.
Jeez.
Every week.
Oh, think about all that data.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, dude, it's getting to the point where this shit is like, it's like ghoulish, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Big Brother and this well, if you go back, when's the last time you read
1984?
1984.
What, maybe high school?
Go back and reread it. Because what's crazy is it's not that it doesn't sound that crazy.
Oh, yeah. No, I know, dude. I mean, everybody jokes about it, but I mean, hell, there's a reason that everybody's even talking about it or referencing it.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Yeah, I mean, because in 1984, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the kind of line of communication through your television? and that like Big Brother was like watching you and listening to you in your room, like that was a real thing. You know, I mean, you've got, you know, whatever your flavor of politics,
just a complete and utter surveillance state,
without a doubt. I mean, the president, this was this year, right? They were testing, you know, the ability for the president to reach out to every fucking cell phone in the United States. Like that's real. That happened, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, 324 million people in the United States and 140, you know, million people are visiting Walmart in person or online every week, right?
Yeah.
Like you're fucking off your rocker if you don't think that, you know, tinfoil hat time, but you don't think that the CIA, NSA, that these folks are like plugged in to what the fuck Walmart's listening to, like at scale.
Of course.
Well, dude, I'll do you one even better than that. Walmart's probably selling them that information.
Yeah.
You know, and just considering it another profit stream. So it's like it's just really interesting, man. It's the difference in corporation and state, and the difference in like the entities that you interact with on a day-to-day basis is really becoming unclear.
Yeah. And
that line is being blurred. You know, where it used to be private public sector, the two have become so intertwined. I mean, you know, for fuck's sake, DARPA has a VC fund. You know, they have an accelerator where if you're like working on something that's interesting, you know, they're more than happy to you know throw some money in to see if you can, you know, build it for them. But but that's, you know, it is, not to sound like a 90-year-old man here, but it's definitely a sign of the times. And you know, I would be, by the time, I'm so cynical about this stuff, by the time this hits CNET on July 13th, you know, 2018, which is when this article is had, you know, popped up. By the time it's CNET, dude, this shit is past beta, you know, like it's not. And by the way, Walmart as a corporation here, like this R&D is so deeply embedded in their balance sheets and like what they do, like, and it's been through the spin machine so many times, and they've played, you know, they've tried, I'm sure, you know, explored every single nuanced way that they can present this information so that they won't just get extreme backlash. And the way that they'll convince people is like, well, when you go in, don't you want the best experience? It's like, unfortunately, most people would be like, yes.
Yeah, and that was the thing, is in the actual patent, they did mention that they wanted, one of the uses for it was to listen to guest conversations to determine the lengths of checkout lines. So I don't know, man. I don't go to Walmart that often. But I think that I'll probably end up going to Walmart a little less often now.
Yeah, it's like we talked about a couple of episodes ago. One of the most robust IoT ecosystems in retail is in Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
You know, and I had this article pulled up this morning, and it's from Medium, and it's talking about, you know, edge computing at Chick-fil-A. That's the title of the article, right? And so Chick-fil-A has a group of data scientists and IoT folks that work on their quote edge team, where they develop applications that are, containerized, which means they can run locally, right? And you know, these local applications are doing a variety of different things for Chick-fil-A. Of course, they're the way that they're kind of spinning this is that, you know, they make sure that the chicken hasn't been under the heating lamp for too long, and that the you know, amount of production is you know, at each store is you know, on par with the number of guests that are stacking up in the line. And, you know, I mean, Chick-fil-A's done a very good job of growing their business and becoming super efficient, but like my point is, you're not going to get away from it.
Yeah,
you know? That's the part.
I guess, I would rather reduce my exposure to it than anything, or as much as I can. but like you said, I mean, that's kind of like pissing in the wind at this point. So
yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. But well, I'm looking at our clock here. Why don't we go on to
yeah, I was gonna say let's cover the Australia stuff, and then we can wrap.
Yeah,
because I thought the Australia thing was pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna take us down a little rabbit hole here.
Yeah, exactly. So I pulled this one from TechCrunch, and it was titled "Australia passes dangerous anti-encryption law after bipartisan compromise." So basically, what has happened is, and at this point, the article was updated on the 6th. And the bill has actually passed after the Labour Party agreed to drop its proposed amendments. So basically what it would do is it would allow Australian police more power to issue, in quotes, technical notices, basically a nice way of forcing companies and even websites operating in Australia to help the government hack, implant malware, and undermine encryption or insert backdoors at the behest of the government. If that is not a fucking insanely huge red flag, or whatever you want to refer to it as, I don't know what is, man. Because that is so dangerous, and so because the one of the big reasons that it's getting so much pushback, and it's obviously not getting pushback from the government, but the tech community is all up in arms about it, because they apparently an Apple spokesperson called it dangerously ambiguous. So the frame, or the terms that they use in this bill are just very, very, and I don't have anything, I don't have any examples off the top of my head or anything, but it's basically been said that it's probable cause kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So that it's okay, if, which the reason that they wanted to implement this is because I believe that they wanted to target serious criminals, basically sex offenders, terrorists, homicide and drug offenses. But the problem is,
of course. I mean,
well, they're going to frame it however, it's going to get it passed.
Right.
But the problem is it, when it creeps over to, well, I mean, shit, dude, when it creeps over to whatever the hell the government wants to creep it over on.
Right.
Well, so.
Yeah. Who's deciding?
Yeah, exactly.
It's, I don't know. I'm so interested in being at this, kind of station in life at this point in history, Yeah. I mean, I think that the decisions that we are making now are going to affect future generations like we can't even possibly conceive. Yeah. And I think that it's I don't know, man, in the same way that technology can harness everyone and manipulate everyone and encumber the world, I think it can set us free too. I really do believe that, right? I think it is the last bastion. And so fuck, man, learn anything about technology. Take the time to just learn how the internet works. Take the time to understand how, really, when you pull it apart, how straightforward a website is, a database is. You don't need to be able to do in-depth big O calculations for your fucking algo development. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is just taking the time to understand, the enough about technology so that you can understand the implications here. Yeah. And so, when it comes,
and just not blindly using it.
Not blindly using it, but dude, they've got us in a place now where if you want to use an application, there are 90 pages of things that you commit to. Everybody says, sure, whatever. And in these terms of use agreements. But these terms of use agreements are insidious. Yeah. I mean, they're ambiguous. There is double speak. They're hard to track.
Dude, it's written by professionals. Like literally that are hired solely to write these convoluted terms and conditions, so that it's like you would have to have a fucking full legal team to fully understand what you're signing up for when you download the Facebook app.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's
to truly understand, I guess.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. No, it's very true. And so, I just think that man, I mean, this will not be the last, and it hasn't been the first, and it won't be the last, and just keeping a antenna up for what's happening. But look, man, incrementalism on a global scale, and in many ways that is kind of is in some ways kind of synchronized. I mean, we're at a stage where not only is tech kind of under attack in an example like this, but tech is also on the attack in the same direction. Like if you think for 1 second, like the reason that Facebook and the government disagree is not because one wants your best interest and the other one doesn't, right?
Yeah. No,
exactly. It's because they're both clawing for everything they can get about you.
Yeah.
And that's the real mind roaster to me, that the individual has become, has like
well, they've like monetized society somehow.
Right. Well, that's right. And the individual has become the farm. Yeah. The individual has become what is being. Well,
shit, dude, you saw The Matrix. We're all just a bunch of batteries.
I mean, here's what's true. Here's what the case is. Like, it's not. I mean, you think about the way that things work now, right? Like what the suggested path is for most people. It's like go to school, pair off, build a nest, get into an insane amount of fucking debt that forces you to work in a very specific way. And watch Netflix all the time, and so I don't think it's a conspiracy, because I don't think that you can coordinate that many players in the same direction. But I think that what is becoming clear is that the battle is for sovereignty in every direction. I'm saying, like, the sovereignty of you as a person who creates data and should own that data and should own, your personhood. But then also that used to not be at odds with like the sovereignty of countries. And in many ways now it is, because in my mind, the way that countries stay in power is to be able to enforce something on these populations, right? And that's like taxes, or like the inability to move, or whatever, if they want to like cancel your passport or whatever. And now that's becoming, we're seeing those hurdles kind of drop, right? Like things like Bitcoin allow you to pay $100 million for 6 cents to somebody in Botswana from Alabama. And you used to like fundamentally not be able to do that outside of the bounds of of a regulated system. Yeah. So anyway, man, but this is so I think that's the way to put it, man. That it's the sovereignty of kind of everyone that's involved. It's like that's kind of the battleground. This has been a really serious episode, man.
Yeah, I know. I just realized that too. But
yeah, man, this kind of shit's important, and I think the somber tone here was from. Like we were talking about, man, what's happening in France, what's happening in Ukraine with Russia, what's happening with Brexit, and kind of the degradation of the the power of the Parliament in the UK. It's just again, it's this like battle for sovereignty. That's ended up being really interesting.
Yeah. Well, and it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, dude, you know that anytime anything happens in fellow developed countries and stuff, dude, the United States is fucking looking at it and being like, maybe, you know, because I mean, you don't think that the fucking
we're already there.
Oh yeah, totally. But the good thing is I do have faith enough in technology, and I mean, dude, none of these big tech companies want to be able to build that shit in and give access to the government, because all you're doing at that point is just basically, you're basically just having a backdoor that's another target for hackers, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
For all these security breaches. And
shit,
so,
yeah. And you're exactly right. You're exactly right.
It's just a liability, basically. So.
It is. It totally is. But I mean, it's like, if you want to be able to like really stay on top of this and like really kind of understand how it affects you, just become a little bit more technical. Like, it's really not that tough. You know, like, it's really, really, really not that tough. Just, pop the hood and just take a look. Every now and again, just kind of take a look and kind of think about how it'll affect you. But anyway, it looks like we are out of time here on the Tether Radio Podcast, episode number 27. Am I correct in that?
That is correct.
Righty. Alrighty. So let's do the
jig, the outro jig,
the outro wrap up jig here. So. Thank you all for joining us for episode 27 of Tether Radio. You could be spending this hour and a half in a lot of ways, but you spent it with us, so we appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you would like to send us thoughts, comments, anything in between, feel free. We love to read your thoughts here, and not in a creepy way, like in a way where you write them and you send them to us, and this is like an exchange that we both agreed to, So you send those over to Tether Radio, TETHERRADIO @gmail.com. On Twitter, you can find us at the handle @Tether_radio. Instagram is the same, @Tether_radio. And we are, of course, on Facebook at Tether Radio, all one word. So feel free to reach out to us there. We certainly appreciate it. This has been awesome. Episode 27. We have got... 4 more episodes through the end of the year, and so we've got some cool programming we're working on for y'all. We've got a conversation that we're going to have about social media, kind of in depth. We've got an expert that is in the fam, if you will, and I certainly will. And so hopefully she'll be able to join us here in the next couple of weeks. But this has been episode 27 of Tether Radio. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Daniel.
And we are reminding you to stay tethered, friends. We will see you next week.
See you guys, and have a great one.